The Joe team head to Afghanistan to retrieve a fallen Soviet spy plane. But first, they'll have to deal with the Oktober Guard. G.I. Joe, a real American hero, Volume 1, Issue 6. To fail is to conquer. To succeed is to die. The issue opens with the G.I. Joe team returning from a previous mission, supposedly from G.I. Joe Volume 1, Issue 5. In that mission, Cobra attempted to capture a G.I. Joe Mobat tank during an Armed Forces Day parade leading to a chase through New York City. Following the mission, the team is, as they fly in a large military transport airplane landing at McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. As the Joes reflect on how tough and grueling the last mission was, the team disembarks from the cargo plane and boards a military-grade personal carrier truck with Clutch behind the wheel. 15 minutes later, they arrive at the pit in Fort Wadesworth, New York. While relaxing, the Joes discuss the Mobat motorized battle tank and the VAMP vehicle assault multi-purpose. As the Joes are hanging out, General Hawk arrives to inform them about an upcoming voluntary mission. They all proceed to the briefing room to receive details about the mission. In the briefing room, General Hawk explains, 2 days ago, a top-secret Russian spy craft crash-landed in the Hindu Kush mountain range of Afghanistan. The plane and its pilot are now in the hands of Afghan Rebel Hill tribesmen. We've known for some time that the Russians have been testing new hardware in Afghanistan, and it seems they were using this prototype anti-gravity device to locate rebel bases. The rebels currently have the device and are willing to let us retrieve it for the right price. We've got a CIA liaison person on the ground working to prepare the plane for extraction, but the Russians are closing in fast. On top of that, we have intelligence suggesting that Cobra Commander, leader of the worldwide terrorist organization, is also in the hunt. Our mission is to beat both the Russians and Cobra to the punch. The mission reflects the geopolitics of the time. The Afghan rebels at war with the Russians were depicted as freedom fighters, a portrayal consistent with Cold War era U.S. support for these groups. Ironically, post-Cold War, these same factions would organize into the Taliban, masterminding the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the U.S. The mission will be extremely challenging. The Russians are expected to deploy their equivalent of G.I. Joe forces and Cobra Commander factions as a dangerous third player to the race for the spycraft. General Hawk continues, there are no landing fields or paved roads in the mountains, so we'll have to extract the plane using a rough terrain vehicle, RTV. The RTV components will be dropped by a parachute and assembled on site. The RTV is specially designed vehicle. For its size, it's surprisingly light yet strong enough to haul a jet plane. One of its key features is ability to easily transport for insertion missions. The components can be airdropped and assembled on location with the heaviest parts manageable by 6-person team. The body is made primarily of plastic, aluminum, and foam composite with very little steel, making it lightweight yet durable. The composite is strong enough to withstand bullets and protect the engine. The RTV is equipped with relatively strong crane at the back of the control section and armed with a pair of gun turrets on the top and another pair below the command section. General Hawk continues, by following old smugglers' trails, we can bypass populated areas and hopefully avoid the Russians and Cobra forces. The final destination will be Karachi, Pakistan, where the team will rendezvous with a transport ship flying neutral colors. I need 6 volunteers. As everyone raises their hand, Duke says, I figured as much. That's why I took the liberty of pre-selecting the mission members. Steeler will drive the RTV and Clutch will ride point in the Vamp Jeep. The final team lineup includes Stalker, Breaker, Scarlet, Clutch, Steeler, and Flash. Within an hour, they are shipped off to Afghanistan to begin their mission. As Clutch flirts with Scarlet, she shuts him down, saying, frankly, Clutch, I'd rather have a date with Clint Eastwood's baboon. Clutch retorts, it's your loss, babe. Scarlet quickly snaps back, don't call me babe, you grease monkey. General Duke intervenes, saying, cool it, both of you. Scarlet's comment refers to Clint Eastwood's films Every Which Way But Loose loose in any which way you can, where his sidekick was an orangutan named Clyde. Meanwhile, in the communication bunker, the G.I. Joe Command Center, a spy known as Songbird, is secretly reporting back to Cobra Central. Someone patched a call through to Cobra Commander, tipping them off that the Joes are on their way. Shockingly, that someone turns out to be General Hawk, who is revealed to maybe be the spy called Songbird. Once in the Hindu Kush, Stalker's team parachutes out of the transport plane along with their vehicles. Upon landing, they are greeted by Afghan rebels and the CIA liaison assigned to the mission. The liaison remarks on their luck, saying, "If it had been the Oktober Guard, the top Russian assault team, you'd be buzzard meat by now." Ahmed, the rebel chief, shows Stalker where the crate containing the plane is stored. In return for their cooperation, Ahmed demands to be supplied with anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles. Stalker explains, "This is our rough terrain vehicle, the RTV. Each component is light enough to be dropped by a chute and easily lifted by 6 people. There's hardly any steel in it, mostly plastic, aluminum, and foam composite, providing low weight but high structural strength." Moments later, the Joe team, with assistance from the rebel, assembles the RTV. In less than 23 minutes, the vehicle is prepped, the cargo is loaded, and they are ready to roll. Stalker promises Ahmed that he will do what he can to secure weapons for him, but cautions that he cannot guarantee anything. For Ahmed, Stalker's word is enough, despite the CIA liaison pointing out that Stalker, as an infantryman, has no authority to make such promises. Ahmed responds that he trusts Stalker because he is a fighting man just like himself. Interestingly, the Afghan rebels depicted in this comic would eventually become known as the Taliban, highlighting how the world has changed over time. The RTV makes its way across the desert, escorted by Stalker and Clutch in the van. Steeler is in the driver's seat of the RTV with Breaker manning communications, Flash at the weapons control, and Scarlet as the navigational console operating directional beams and the functional map, essentially acting as the team's GPS. Unbeknownst to the team, they are being observed from the cliffs by 2 men. One Russian operative radios in saying, "October 1, this is October 2. They are headed our way. We shall proceed to our pre-designated position." They reach a wide crevice and are puzzled as to why a feature of that size isn't marked on their maps. As they begin to figure out how to navigate around it, they come under fire from AK-47s. Steeler urgently asks, "What's going on down there?" as machine guns fire rattles the Joes. Flash quickly responds by firing back with the top turrets. Suddenly, a warning blares over the speakers in broken English with Russian slang, calling them dogs and demanding they lay down their arms, asserting they are pinned down and cannot escape. As Stalker and the Joes return fire, they realize the lack the high ground. Stalker shouts, "Nuts, Steeler, get on the horn and tell him to shift that overgrown beach buggy into action." Using its crane, the RTV lifts the vamp and itself over the crevice in the mountains. Watching the G.I. Joes escape, the Russians order their own vehicle to be brought up. These are no ordinary Russian soldiers. Their attackers are the aforementioned Oktober Guard, who remain undoubtedly undaunted by the size of the RTV and the cover fire Flash is laying down. The Guard emerges from hiding to confront the Joes head on. Their ATV personal carrier gets them across the crevice just as the Joes finish crossing. Stalker exclaims, "Here comes the Russians. It's the Oktober Guard." Horror Show shouts, "American fools. The Oktober Guard will teach you the error of your capitalistic ways." As their ATV leaps over the crevice, both the Joes and the Oktober Guard fire at each other while navigating the treacherous mountain terrain. The Oktober Guard is an elite special mission force, often considered the Eastern equivalent of the G.I. Joe team. It is a Soviet special operation unit composed of members from several Warsaw Pact countries. Unlike the Joes, the team is smaller and does not feature extravagant code names. The Oktober Guard operates internationally, protecting and promoting Soviet and Warsaw Pact interests. While their countries are rivals with the United States during the Cold War, the Guard members are portrayed not as villains but as military professionals fulfilling their duty to their nations. In this mission, the Soviets sent the Oktober Guard to retrieve a downed spy plane in Afghanistan. However, the Guard discovers that the Joe team has beaten them to it. They intercept the Joe convoy before it can reach its extraction point. Despite being outgunned and at a disadvantage, advantage against the Joes RTV, which provides higher ground and superior firepower, the Guard presses on relentlessly. The members of the Oktober Guard includes Colonel Brekov, Diana, Horoshow, Skraj, and Stormovik. The tires of the Russian ATV are self-sealed against bullets, but not against arrows. Scarlet fires a crossbow bolt, piercing one of their balloon tires, which causes the ATV to tip over. Surprising the Guard, the entire Oktober Guard is thrown from the vehicle, but shows resilience, continuing to fire at the Joes. Both sides engage in a fierce exchange of gunfire, but neither manages to inflict any casualties. Steeler has had enough and instructs Flash to take advantage of the RTV's ability to fire from a higher vantage point. The Oktober Guard is pinned down, but this only fuels their leader, Colonel Brokovich, to make a furious head-on charge. Brokovich declares, "Our plan is to do what we were trained to do, what my father did at Stalingrad, what my grandfather did on the Eastern Front, attack." As the Joes see the Russians charging toward them, they realize this will soon turn into a close-quarters, hand-to-hand combat situation. The Oktober Guard follows Brokovich's lead, and although the Joes are surprised by the bold action, they quickly ready themselves for the intense melee that ensures. A fierce series of hand-to-hand battle follows. Stormovik is taken down by Scarlet, who flips him over with ease. Meanwhile, Horoshow is being jumped on by three Joes, but insists he's having a wonderful time as they beat on him. Shraj takes a massive haymaker from Clutch, sending him reeling. Colonel Brokov and Stalker engage in combat, with Stalker using the butt of his machine gun to deliver a hard blow to the Colonel. However, Brokov halts the fight abruptly to warn Stalker about something behind him. Stalker, refusing to fall for what he thinks is a trick, hesitates only for Brokov to quickly prove his point by indicating the unexpected presence that has arrived. Both forces are surrounded by Cobra and are forced to surrender. Cobra Commander declares, "Throw down your weapons. Resistance is futile. You are all prisoners of Cobra Commander." Both the G.I. Joes and the Oktober Guard drop their weapons, outnumbered and outgunned by Cobra. Cobra Commander continues, "A wise decision, gentlemen. Sergeant, collect their arms. Then you may line them up, all the prisoners, by the ravine and kill them." Cobra now holds prisoners from both G.I. Joe and Oktober Guard, as well as the Russian spycraft. They are lining up anyone who is not part of the Cobra troops for execution. Next, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Volume 1, Issue 7.